I'm here. My name is Phil Vassel. I'm here with, I'll say, the great Ebonnie Rowe, the accomplished Ebonnie Rowe, who's had a 40-year success in terms of the work that she's done, both as a volunteer and also as an executive for Honey Jam. And I want to go back to a moment that I'm sure still resonates with her. And that moment is when she got the call that she was being awarded an Order of Canada special award. Ebony, how was that for you when someone reached out to you and say you're the proud recipient of the highest civilian honor in the country?
It was a total and complete surprise. I was out, this was in April, and I was about to go into a meeting, and I checked my phone, saw an email from the government asking, is this where they can reach Ebonnie Rowe? Didn't say what it was about, just a cold and dry email. And I was like, oh no, did I make an error in my taxes? That was my honest first response. So I called the lady right away, and then she let me know what it was, and my mouth just kind of dropped, and I felt very emotional. And I had people waiting for me inside, and then she says to me, and you can't say anything.
Ouch.
It was under embargo for months until the Governor General made the actual formal announcement for all of the recipients for the year. So I just, I really was not very present at the meeting that I was heading into. But yeah, it was a very, very pleasant surprise. And then the date of the announcement was June the 30th, right before Canada Day. And that was the day of our party, our anniversary party. So when I heard that that was on the same date, I thought, okay, this is the universe that's sending me a positive sign.
Absolutely.
Because how perfect is that? It's on June the 30th. It's our 30th anniversary, and it's on the night of our party.
It was meant to be, Ebony, I would say.
Yes, there are no coincidences.
There's none of that. Now, 30 years, this is a great segue to talk about 30 years of Honey Jam. When did that get started, and how did it get started? Because you were doing other things along the way, right?
Yes. So I had a full-time job as a legal assistant. I was running a mentor program for at-risk Black youth called Each One Teach One. And I was hanging out with teenagers. And they were listening to gangster rap, which had a lot of misogyny in it. I spoke to the biggest hip hop DJ in Canada, because young women in the program were telling me their 5-year-old little brothers were calling them the B word and the H word, which they had no idea what that was, but they were hearing it on hip hop radio. And this is back when, there was no clean versions for college radio, so they could hear this in the middle of the day. I approached the biggest hip hop DJ, DJ X. He said, come on my show and talk about it. I did. Listening to the show was Dr. J, the Soca Prince, who at that time was just Jason Rothstein. And he contacted me and said, would you edit an all-female issue of our magazine? I did that. The rap party for the magazine was called Honey Jam. That is how Honey Jam started. It was just supposed to be that, a celebration of this magazine that we had edited to talk about women in hip hop. And then everyone said, when is the next one? And I said, what are you talking about? This isn't what I do. And I thought, well, let's try it for a year and see. And here we are, 30 years later. Surprise.
Wow. And a great name too. I think you nailed it.
That was I locked all of the writers in a room, including Miss Gemini. We were all at my apartment. We'd all worked on the magazine, and Denise Harrison and Mansa and about 5 other women. And I said, okay, we need to have a name for this party that we're going to have. So we went around the room, and it was hip hop based. So it's like, okay, what are they referring to women in hip hop? So obviously there was bitch, there was hoe, there was shorty. We went around the room, and then honeys. That's honeys. Okay. And what are we doing? It's a party. It's a celebration. It's a jam, honey jam. That's it.
That's it. That's it. And
that's the story of the name.
And you know what? Some people may not know this as well, but one of the impressive things about Honey Jam, because I was producing the Toronto Urban Music Festival at about the same time,
right,
is the number of women alumni that when I was reading through your bio and going over some information, I mean, you have a really famous alumni group, names like Nelly Furtado, Julie Black, Havaya Mighty, Lucala, Jordan Alexander, Melanie Fiona, Kelly Lee Evans has performed at your event as well. You know,
Ray.
Yes, if you had a label, you'd be rivaling Motown by now. You know what I mean? Because I think one of the things you did was to bring into the spotlight women that, as you put it, were overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
Was that really why you did this?
It was specific to hip hop. That was the origin story of Honey Jam. Mm-hmm. And to give women in hip hop a platform and a safe space, right? Because it was a very much a male dominated genre. So that is how it started. And the rest, honestly, is just making it up as I went along, because it was never a plan. Honey Jam started by accident. It was just supposed to be that one-off party, right? And so there was no grand vision. We're going to do this and we're going to achieve that. So it just grew organically. So we would do the shows, and then I would see people in the industry come down to talk to the young women as they exited the stage. And now you have to remember, this is before the internet. There's no Google. You don't know who these people are that are coming to talk to you. There's no way you can, research them in a quick sort of way. Mm-hmm. And I am very much a mama bear. And so I'm watching from the sidelines, and I was like, these young women don't have any idea about the industry or who these people are. And I could see them being very wide-eyed and with promises of studio time and, come by my studio at midnight and these sort of things. So that's how the educational part of it started. Mm-hmm. And the Harris Institute donated their space, and we had these workshops, and we had panelists who were all women and were there because they cared and wanted to see them win. And everybody was on their side. And that's how the developmental part of it began.
So it became a movement of sorts, because that space was wide open. There's none of the labels had any special programs despite the need for this.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess they didn't really think it was their job, There used to be, you talked about Motown, and they had such a very serious artist development boot camp program.
Yes.
Like you just had to be on point in every single area. And that doesn't exist anymore, and it didn't really exist when Honey Jam started. So
Was that an inspiration at all? Because I learned that even the Motown training camps that they had, boot camps, you had to learn how to use a knife and a fork even.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't getting into table etiquette.
No table etiquette.
But just
But
kind of the basics.
yeah, but it seemed to have filled a really huge need that wasn't being attended to. And, if there's one thing that the community lacks is infrastructure.
Hmm.
And it seemed like you came along, you said it was organic, but you were totally in tune with what those needs are, not just for Black women, but for women in general. And I would dare say that what you were doing in that space, there really wasn't a group like that for men. Did
Not
you hear
not that I'm
some?
aware of. Not that I'm aware of.
And we still haven't
I know
seen it.
that fresh arts existed at that time, and so people like Cardinal and Motion would have been a part of that and would have come through that. I'm not familiar with exactly what programming they did, but that was kind of an artist incubator at the time. Um, but
And
we were
that
definitely the only
lasted,
people
that
that were doing
lasted
that for women.
that lasted for a short time because, when you think about an incubator, Fresh Arts comes up with all those names,
Hmm.
but it died on the vine after a while, you
It's
know.
hard to keep things going. It is very, very hard. You have to be obsessed. And I am an obsessive person. And it's like
You're
my
calling yourself an obsessive person?
absolutely, absolutely. I'm a control freak. I own all the things. I'm very passionate. And, once I decide that I want to do something, there isn't really much that's going to stop me, just kind of figure it out. So, yeah, it was so fulfilling to me to do something that was impactful and that was making a difference, and it gave my life purpose. Now, I have a full-time job as a legal assistant, sitting at a cubicle from 9 to 5,
Right.
you know, that was kind of soul crushing. So it was great to have this outlet
Hmm.
to do positive things.
Well, you have more than succeeded in terms of doing that. And that alumni list, like I said, is so impressive. I wonder, do they become mentors in your program as well?
Oftentimes they do. Sometimes they will be formal mentors because we have a mentor cafe that matches people up with mentors in different parts of the industry. Sometimes they're audition judges. Sometimes they will conduct a workshop. Um, Last year, we had Angelique return to do a workshop with us. And so that is very, very gratifying. And oftentimes they are unofficial mentors where, they will be cheerleaders for the artists. They'll come out to the events and just talk and interact. And, it's a great sisterhood.
And a great choice of words. I'm thinking that, at some point you might have been asked, have you ever considered starting a label of your own? I mean,
Yes, many times.
and to
Many
that you
times.
say,
I haven't really. I mean, there was a time that I had the full-time job at the law firm. I'm doing Each One Teach One and doing Honey Jam before the internet.
wow,
I remember going on shows like Demix and Electric Circus and having to put my phone number on national television
oh my
because
God.
there's no website to refer people to. So for someone to be like, oh, have you ever thought about this? Like, add one more thing to my list. And then, it's a very organic community nonprofit
Mhm.
initiative.
Hmm.
I I don't have the expertise to try to start a label and get into all of that. And then if I were to do that, what happens to the actual program, which is my heart? And how can you do both? So I have not yet done that.
Okay, so we won't be seeing Motown of the North anytime soon.
It's not in my on my to-do list at the moment.
Yeah. Now, I want to take you back to Montreal. You were
Hmm.
born in Montreal,
Yes.
and then you moved to Toronto. So Montreal's loss is our gain here in
So I have to
Toronto.
correct you. Went from Montreal to Ottawa to Barbados to Kingston, Ontario, then to Toronto.
My, was that a good thing?
Well, my father was a diplomat, and then there were times that he moved to Switzerland, and we stayed. He was in Washington for a bit, and we stayed in one place. But yeah, I was a kid, and I don't have any trauma from it. But I've
Okay,
spent most of my life in Toronto. That's the majority of time.
that's where it all came together.
Hmm.
And do I have this right? You have brothers and sisters, right? You have a
One
sister
brother, one sister. I'm the baby.
and a very accomplished baby. Your brother is a lawyer. I know that.
Hmm.
Your sister, I understand, has also won an Order of Canada.
No,
No?
she's won, I believe, some volunteerism awards. She is a historian.
Hmm.
She's won a number of awards in her own right.
So was there this friendly rivalry, sibling rivalry in your family? Because everybody has done well.
Yes, um, not at all, at least not in my mind. I think we are all just focused in our lanes, all doing very different things and just focus on trying to do our best. And it never crossed my mind like, am I meeting the goalpost? Oh, he's getting a little further. She's getting a little further. I need to do this. Never crossed my mind, not with my siblings and not with anyone else in community.
You mentioned your father very briefly as a diplomat,
Hmm.
and I'm just wondering, you probably don't talk a lot about this, but a cousin of mine attended McGill, and he talks about how much of a father figure that your dad was to him,
Hmm.
and how he excelled in his own right. Do you want to share a little
Yes.
bit about him?
He was very much also a community activist. So when he first went to Montreal, it would have been in the 50s. And he was kind of a liaison officer that the students would go to him and he would kind of help them acclimate to
Hmm.
life in Canada, life in Montreal. He was a student at McGill and graduated from McGill. Um, there's a Negro Community Center in
Montreal.
Montreal. That's
Hmm.
that's what we were called in the
Yes.
50s when he was there. So he was very involved with that. And a number of West Indian students, he was the friendly, welcoming face. And so there are many hundreds of them who view him in that way
Hmm.
because they're coming to this cold country. And anyone who's been to Montreal knows what the winters are like there.
Hmm.
So for there to be a West Indian welcoming face there to help them was very important and impactful.
Yes, the person I'm talking about, Andy talks about him being really like a father figure.
Hmm.
And, I said to him at the time, then you need to share this with Ebony. I mean, if
Right.
the shoe was on the other foot, it would be good to know. So
Hmm.
he's a hero to Andy, and now you're telling me there are a number of other students as well who came from
Absolutely.
the Caribbean that had that experience.
Hmm.
So did his accomplishments, he became a diplomat. Did that experience drive you and Roger and your sister,
You drive us in
drive
what?
you to succeed?
I don't really feel that. I was maybe 5 when that was happening, and that would have ended by the time I had hit adolescence.
Hmm.
So, and he was gone all of the time. So there were not a lot of like dinners around the table. It was like my mom was almost like a single mom.
Hmm.
So I can't really say that. He's always been someone whose accomplishments I have admired.
Hmm.
And, his family is also well respected in Barbados, which is where both of my parents are from. So I guess you feel, a bit of that legacy, but I can't say it was ever top of mind. And
Hmm.
I've not heard my siblings say that. But I think things happen by trickle down or by osmosis or even without even knowing. I don't remember him like sitting down and be like, oh, you should do this. Or, he was very absent a lot of the time. And that is an age where fathers, that just wasn't a thing. They were a lot more removed. And I think when we were born, I don't even think they let fathers into the into the
To the
delivery
ward?
rooms back then.
Gosh.
But
Um,
I'm very proud of both of my parents, and my mom would have been the one, and the enforcer, having us take lessons, culture, ballet, piano, different things, making sure that we do our homework. And she was the one doing all of those things, going to the school and parent teacher things and encouraging us to excel. She's still waiting for me to be a lawyer, by the way.
well, I think there are a lot of lawyers that would love to trade places with you. I know a few of them, you know. And the other thing that I've come to appreciate, we went to Montreal to do some research on the Black music history there in late August.
Hmm.
And one of the things I learned from speaking to a professor there, Professor Dorothy Williams, is that the women, those who were part of the Union United Church, those who were part of the Negro Center, and all of that, there was really women kept the home, women kept the children, women kept things together in a way that often goes, underreported or unnoticed. But they were
Absolutely.
they were literally the backbone of the community. And it sounds like your mom didn't just play that role for, her family, but probably for a lot of other people as well.
Well, she had 3 children a year apart. Okay.
Okay.
So imagine being 9 months pregnant, having a 1 year old and a 2 year old. So
Wow.
there wasn't a whole lot of time in the younger years when we were in Montreal for her to get super involved. But she
Yeah.
was involved in terms of how she made sure her children
We're taken
were
care of.
involved.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
that got involved in the center and taking us there. And I'm sure that she and the other mothers all made a contribution.
Did you play the piano? Because I hear that was a big thing in Montreal amongst the Black middle class back in the day.
Yes, so I left Montreal when I was 5, so I didn't play there, but my father's family is a musical family. My father plays guitar. His sister is a piano teacher. So when we were in Ottawa, we had a piano, and at 6, I was playing Mozart, and my mother
Whoa.
would sit there with the ruler to correct my mistakes when I was practicing. And when we moved to Barbados, there wasn't a piano, and I have not touched a piano since then.
Were you like, I'm never going back to playing piano because I might get my knuckles wrapped?
Well, yeah, that's not a pleasant memory when you are in fear. It's hard to like really immerse yourself in the music. Um, and I did try like decades later, and I could barely do Mary Had a Little Lamb when I was able to read music before and just, rattle off Mozart. So I'm still hoping to get back to it one day. Um, but yes. And
I
my
th-
brother is a guitarist as well.
okay. And I think, there's always a thread that brings you back to the music. Do you
Hmm.
think that early appreciation playing Mozart as a 5-year-old, did that in some way get you to where you are today, where you're mentoring a whole generation of young women?
I don't think so. I was in the school choir as well. But then decades passed before Honey Jam started. So it's not like there's a through line
Hmm.
that, carried in a consistent way throughout my life. And the Honey Jam for me was more about social activism, I guess, coming out of each one, teach one.
Yes.
Um, Doing things that are making a difference socially. That is something more that has been a constant in my life. So from the time I was 11, 12, I would volunteer with Dudley Laws's organization,
Bad
and
seat. Hmm.
later on with Bev Salmon and the Ontario Black History Society, and that was really ingrained with us. I discovered Malcolm X at the age of 11, and just that idea of taking responsibility for your future and not just pointing the finger to say, well, they did this and they need to do that. It's like, look in the mirror and what are you doing? What is your contribution? So that drives me. That's in my DNA.
Mm. You know, I think there is a Montreal connection to Malcolm X as well.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, I think his mother was part of the Garvey movement. She's from the Caribbean, and
Marcus
she,
Garvey's son was in Montreal.
that's right, one of
Yes,
the
my father
largest,
knew him.
wow,
Yes.
one of the largest outposts, I guess that's not even the right word, but the Marcus Garvey organization had a number of chapters. That's the
Mm-hmm.
word I'm looking for. In a number of different places, and Montreal had one of the largest ones.
Okay.
So there was quite a bit of activism in Montreal, and there's a number of women who prided themselves on uplifting the race, as it were. The
I don't
guys.
know.
Go ahead.
I don't know what the reasoning is, but the years that I was in Montreal and the years that I went back to visit, the Black community there is very, very tight. I've not been back recently, but it was very different from my experience in Toronto. It's just a completely different vibe. There's just something about the cohesiveness and the love and the friendliness and the welcoming and the purpose, and we're all in this together. It's just
Yes.
a different vibe. And a lot of people have left Montreal, because of the whole language thing. But It's a beautiful community.
Well, I would say that I learned a lot back in August speaking to a number of people there
Mm-hmm.
at the Union United Church, which, has deep roots in Montreal. And a number of things came out of that. You mentioned you were part of a choir going up. The Montreal Jubilation Choir came out of that as
Mm-hmm.
well. And people like Daisy Peterson, Oscar's older sister, who
Yes.
taught him how to play, they were committed to the church and to the community. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
we have anything like that
Like
here.
that.
It's very splintered, very scattered.
Mm-hmm.
Montrealers, I think for me, what is so admirable about Montreal when I went there is that they kept that going for a number of years. And when they decided to put a highway through the community, things started to change because then
Mm-hmm.
people became scattered,
Yes.
and that had a negative impact. You no longer had the same level of community. But
Mm-hmm.
the Union United Church has become, quite the, I guess you can say, savior in a
Mm-hmm.
way, for holding on to that level of cohesiveness that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So, someone once said, the first 7 years of a child's development is the most important. And it seemed like
Yes.
with your dad's activism, quiet activism, working with students, I'm thinking some of that must have rubbed off on you and your siblings.
Mm-hmm. But my mom was the enforcer. So
But
I have to
mom,
give her her due, and ever
yes,
present.
yes. Now let's go back to where we are now with Honey Jam.
Mm-hmm.
30 years, where do you go from there?
That is the $1 million question. It's things are challenging. Things are challenging. The climate has changed in terms of financial support. I call it the Trump trickle down.
Hmm.
So I was in 2024 when I was looking to plan everything for 2025. I was certain that Kamala was going to win. So certain that was going to go down for the inauguration.
Mm.
And I thought, with a Black female leader of the free world, there's going to be so much trickle down positivity, Black girl magic and everything. You know how that goes.
Yes.
And yeah, then that didn't happen. And so the two things that affected us directly and immediately was his anti-DEI stance,
Hmm.
right? And so a lot of companies in Canada followed that lead because he made the statement that if you want to do business with the US, you have to cut any DEI programs that you have. And so there was a big event here that lost $300,000 in sponsorship just
Wow.
a few weeks before it was scheduled to happen,
Wow.
right? And then the second thing was the tariffs and the economic uncertainty. And so I had already signed contracts to do things, really big things, anticipating all of this new support, none of which materialized. And all of us that are working in this nonprofit space with diverse community
Hmm.
are feeling the pinch.
Yeah.
And so funding was down last year, and it's even more so this year. There's a funding organization that just announced that they're no longer going to be funding initiatives.
Yes.
So what a way to start off the year. So yeah, it's a scary time.
Hmm.
I don't have an answer. I'm just putting one foot in front of the other and doing the work, and planning out the year and what programming we're going to do. And I don't have an answer for how
Um,
it's all going to work out.
I would say this, it's very much on our mind as well, with the Canada Black Music Archives. And, I share those stories with you. Um, it's going to become harder,
Mm-hmm.
and some organizations are quite explicit in telling you that they no longer support these initiatives.
Yes.
So that's a little bit unsettling to say the least. But you know, I think of the song "Always Look on the Bright Side of Life." I mean,
Mm-hmm.
where there's a will, there's bound to be a way, and that's my attitude. I'm not saying, I'm being, Peter Panish about it, but I think at a certain level, you've got to believe that, it is possible, and what that has always forced us to do. This is not the first time we've seen that kind of reaction, um, but we've always had to innovate,
Mm-hmm.
and I think um, we have to be innovative. We have to stand strong. We have to work collectively whenever possible. And it's discovering those muscles that we haven't exercised before.
Mm-hmm.
Because pre 2024, that was not the case. And you really didn't have to look at collaboration you know, in many sense of the word. Now I think we're all open to having those conversations.
That's the hope.
That's the hope. But what are you hearing from the young women that you're working with? Are they alarmed about their opportunities? Because the industry on the record company side as well, they're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with some challenges as well.
I'm not hearing that based on what we're speaking about now. I think a lot of artists have turned away from the allure of getting signed by a label.
Hmm.
And a lot of them are quite happy to go the independent route. There are always going to be people for whom they, might flourish under that system.
Hmm.
But I've not heard that talk. But again, it's we're just coming out of the holidays, and
Yes.
so now is the time to tap back in, um, to to see what's
Hmm.
what is the landscape out there um, doing. But a lot of people at labels were let go before the end of last year,
Mm.
like a ton. So, and different media companies as well, different arts companies. So everyone is trying to find their footing
Hmm.
and a way forward.
Okay. If we could take those challenges away for a second, what would you like to see Honey Jam do next?
Get me an assistant. Clone me. That's what I would like to see next. And then that would allow for a lot of more activity. I'd love to go places outside of Canada, um, and just have a lot more opportunities, do a lot more development that you kind of need funding in order to do.
Now, you have gone to Barbados with Honey Jam. And you've also taken people to the Grammys, I believe. What?
Yes, in 2020, I took one artist to the Grammys. Later on in the 2020s, we went to Nashville. I think we took about 10 artists to Nashville, took about 10 artists to New York. And those were amazing trips.
Mhm.
Um, and I'd really love to be able to do more things like that, to be able to help fund studio time, just all of the things in an artist's career.
Mhm.
So a lot of them, when they come to Honey Jam, they're completely green. For many of them, it's the very first concert that they've done. People are on different levels, but for the majority, that is the case.
Mhm.
And, I'd love to be able to extend the program. I mean, we call it the Forever Sisterhood. So, the person that I took to the Grammys had done Honey Jam maybe 5 years before.
Mhm.
So we always will promote you, we always will consider you, there will always be opportunities, but it's not a formal thing because we don't have the money to do that
Yes.
in the type of way that I would like to. Just want to continue elevating what we're already doing
Mhm.
and be able to identify artists and get them on what they call the star track and helping for those things to happen.
Mhm. Well, if the last 30 years is any indication, I can only imagine the next 30 will be just as impressive.
I'll be working from the nursing home.
Making calls from the nursing home.
That's right.
Did you get it done?
That's right.
Now, personality wise, I've heard you call yourself, and I know this is not for the young ears, but you talk about being very demanding. I think one of the times I heard you refer to yourself as a boss bitch. Why did you say that?
Okay, I can just say boss.
Yes.
I'm a boss.
But I mean, I do understand the sentiment because you're breaking ground in an area of the industry that don't see a lot of, strong women. For you to succeed, it is a
Well, there's a
given that,
lot of them now, but in those early days,
yeah.
and you're fighting with a lot of sexism, with a lot of men who, um, you know, are seeing you in a sexualized way and not always being respectful. And
Hmm.
so that makes you have to be maybe a little harder edge.
Hmm.
When you meet women who've come out of a certain era, they tend to have a little harder edge. Like you won't see them batting their eyes and calling their male colleagues hun and this sort of thing, like I want to be taken seriously. I'm not looking for a date with you. You know
Right.
what I mean? And so sometimes you have to be a little firm. And, you know, there are a lot of people who will take the date as a means to an end, and I'm not one of them. And so some people might get through a little quicker than I do, but it is what it is. And
So,
I have
I,
this conversation with the girls every year about that kind of thing. And I tell them never to do it, never put yourself in a position where you're going to be uncomfortable, where you might be compromised. And so, yeah.
yeah, I wanted to open up that conversation for a bit because, yeah, we hear about the positives and all the accomplishments as Honey Jam, but this is a tough industry as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just articulated, what a lot of those challenges are for young women. Um, you probably were propositioned back in the early days as well, because those things were so much a part of the industry.
Yes. If I would go with a male colleague to an event, people would not think I am a colleague. They would assume that I am a girlfriend or a groupie or something to not be respected,
Hmm.
you know? And so that's how I came up.
Hmm.
And yeah, but I'm kind of known now. My reputation precedes me, so that doesn't happen, at least not in Toronto where people know, so that's not happening.
Yeah.
And for a lot of other women, while it does still happen, if you look at Jessie Reyes's video for Gatekeeper,
Hmm.
which actually brought me to tears because I thought things had improved a bit. And then the ways that women are even complicit in helping that to happen, as you
Hmm.
would see from the R. Kelly story and
Yes.
even from the Diddy story. You know
Yes.
what I mean? It's heartbreaking. But in light of social media and being able to tweet something out and your career could be over, um, there are some people that think twice, and there are others who are so narcissistic that they 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 feel untouchable. And so
Hmm.
even with everybody having a recorder and a broadcast center in their hand, and that their whole life could be brought down, they will still act with impunity, you know?
Is it better or worse? Yes, we know those stories that you just mentioned, with guys who are intent on exploiting women,
Mm-hmm.
for their own, benefit. But, there's more awareness out there about these things, but that doesn't necessarily say that things have changed much. In your opinion, do you think it's changed a lot?
I think it has changed. And I think a lot more men are more aware and are even willing to say, what are you doing? Like to challenge a male colleague or a male friend when they see them doing something.
Hmm.
I think men are more sensitized, and they have, even in companies, they have, they make staff go to sensitivity training around these sorts of things,
Hmm.
which would never even have been a thought 30 years ago. It's like that's just the way that the world worked.
Right.
And either you participate or you don't. But it's absolutely something that is seen as a horrible thing to do now. And there are men who recognize that they are not entitled um, to harass anyone. Um, so I think there has been change.
Hmm.
But
Are you?
there are places in the world that are patriarchal societies, and maybe through their religion they believe in the subjugation of women. So we also have to distinguish between cultures,
Mm.
right? There are still women who are being murdered because they have a male Facebook friend, and they are honor killings. And there's some countries where you get off in terms of not being prosecuted.
Hmm.
And I think we forget that happens in many places around the world. So I've definitely seen an improvement in North America, in my experience. But there are places around the world that are in another time warp where it's part of the society.
Are you called on to do any sort of sensitivity training, particularly with respect to the entertainment industry, the music industry?
No, and that's not my expertise. There are people who that is their expertise, and they have very specific training and exercises and examples that they show, and that is their job. And so, yeah. Don't give me another job, Phil.
Well,
but I talk to the girls about it, and I will talk to men about it, but it's not an official, come take the Ebonnie Rowe, don't be a sexual harasser course.
Still needed is what I'm hearing. So how's the response from these younger women who are launching new careers in this area? Are you hearing that they're still having to contend with this? It sounds to me as a male that it's got to be this ongoing exercise. As you say,
Absolutely.
There are cultural differences and other differences. Seems to me that has to be an ongoing part of what you do at Honey Jam.
Yes. And one of the sad things that I see happening is a rise in what's called the incel culture. And also in the States, the whole machismo thing. And you will see an administration removing qualified women from positions or saying that rolling back
the
gains that have been made over decades. That is
Yes.
happening in the current administration of the United States.
Yes.
Right? And a lot of podcasters, these bro podcasters that, I saw one of them with T-shirts that say, "Your body, my choice."
Wow.
Right? Which is just chilling. And they have millions of followers. So that's very scary. So it feels like 10 steps forward, 500 backward. So we all have to never take our eye off the ball, to always be aware of what is happening and to do what we can to hold up the gains that we've made.
So true. And again, people see the glamorous side of Honey Jam, but there's real heavy lifting going on in terms of preparing women for a professional career.
Well, all sides of the entertainment business look glossy and shiny. I mean, that's what it's meant to be. You're wanting to inspire people. You're wanting people to want to be associated with what you're doing. You're wanting brands to align, etc. And so that's what you are projecting, but behind the curtain, you have these conversations.
Yes, yes. And that's really, for me, when I think about the totality of the work that you're doing, the workshops, the showcases, yeah, that's great. It's glamorous. There's some really great talent that, come through Honey Jam, but it's in the preparation for a career in the business where I think the heavy lifting goes. And the fact that you have, in the eyes of many, certainly here, there's a thing that says, "Don't mess with Ebonnie." You don't want to do that. You know what I mean? And I think just having a strong woman in a leadership capacity for an area that is underserved, you are an incredible role model, Ebonnie.
Thank you, Phil.
And as you say, there's a number of things that have to go right in 2026 with the broader cultural environment that we live in. But I hope you're proud of the work that you've done.
I'm absolutely proud. I am absolutely very proud. If I were to die today, I feel like I have done enough. I also feel like I've barely started, but I have done enough to be satisfied that I've made a contribution and that others have benefited from me being on the earth. Absolutely.
Well, I think that's a great way to end this conversation. There's nothing better than that. You are a shero, as they say in the streets, and I love the fact that you're still doing it. So keep on doing it.
Thank you.
Any last words that you want to leave us with?
Wow.
Is there something that you haven't accomplished yet that you still are
Oh God, so
driven to
much, so much.
accomplish?
What I'm going to end with is something I say to myself, a quote that I heard somewhere. It says, "All will be well in the end, and if it is not yet well, it is not the end, and
Oh,
there's always hope." So I've had to say that to myself to calm myself in times of challenge and to continue to believe. So that's what I'll say.
and I hope people realize that they need to reach out to you as a speaker. I'd love to get you on the speaker circuit because you've got so much to offer. And if you're looking for a job, I think I think there are a lot of folks that need to hear from Ebonnie Rowe.
Thank you, Phil. You love to give me these jobs, these extra jobs. Run a label, start the sexual harassment courses,
You
get on the
just
speaker circuit.
yeah, but look what you were doing. You were working full time at a
I
law
know.
firm. You were doing each one, reach one, teach one, and you were doing that whole fem fat thing. Clearly,
Phil,
there's
I'm
capacity.
older now, Phil. I'm older now.
You ain't done yet. But thank you so much for doing this. I really, really want to say I knew of the early days. Each one, teach one, fem fat, all that work that you put in as a volunteer, and now bringing Honey Jam to 30 years. You are definitely one of the true pioneers, and you've led a very impressive and very what's the word I'm looking for? You have shown that it can be done if you put your mind to it, because as you say, a law firm doesn't grant you the skills necessarily that you have put into place with your leadership of 30 years at Honey Jam. So clearly you're a quick study, very accomplished, and all the
And
best
I
in the future.
surround myself with people who know more than me. It doesn't have to be my idea. I don't have any ego about that. There are so many people who are mentors to me and who are
Mhm,
touchstones in my life and who
mhm.
I will ask for advice. And so, yeah, I live the each one, teach one life in terms of being that for other people and also reaching out to others to be that for me.
And that's a great way to end this, Ebonnie Rowe. Thank you so much for this, and best of luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Have a great day.